The first thing I heard was her voice, not loud, not dramatic, just this thin, tired sound cutting through the normal supermarket noise. I was standing in line at the bakery section of a big box store, the kind of place every American knows by sight, even if the names change. Bright white lights, too much air conditioning, country music or pop playing a little too loud over the speakers, carts squeaking, kids whining for candy. I wasn't even paying attention. I was on my phone, answering an email about a deal that had 7 zeros attached to it, half listening to the hum around me the way you do when you've been in 1,000 stores just like this. Then I heard her say it. Do you have any expired cake? Something old, maybe. It doesn't have to be fresh. It's for my daughter's birthday." The whole place didn't go silent like in the movies, but the space around her sort of tightened. The cashier at the bakery froze with the scanner halfway to a box of cupcakes. The older lady behind me stopped whispering on her phone. Even the kid in the cart in front of me stopped banging a plastic truck on the handlebar. It was like everyone heard something they weren't supposed to hear in public, something private and raw that slipped out in the wrong place. I looked up. She was standing at the counter, shoulders a little hunched forward like she was used to making herself smaller. Her t-shirt was clean but faded, same with her jeans. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail that probably looked good when she had time to care, but today it just looked like I got ready as fast as I could. Next to her, holding her hand, was a little girl with big brown eyes and a pink t-shirt that said "Birthday Girl" in silver glitter. The shirt had definitely seen better days, like it had already celebrated more than one birthday. The girl was clutching a balloon by the string. It was one of those metallic ones, but it had lost most of its helium, so instead of floating above her head proudly, it kind of sagged at her shoulder, bouncing weakly every time she shifted her weight from foot to foot. There was something about that balloon that hit me harder than her words. It was like hope, trying to float in a room with no air left. The bakery worker blinked a few times, confused, like maybe she misheard. "Expired?" she repeated. "You mean, like, past the date?" The mom swallowed. I could see her throat move from where I stood. "Yes," she said softly. "If you have any cake you were going to throw away. My daughter, she just wants a cake. It doesn't have to be good, just something with frosting and maybe a candle if you have one. I can pay a little, just not full price." Her voice cracked on full price, like those two words were heavier than the rest. The cashier's eyes flicked past her for a second to the manager on the other side of the counter, busy arranging fancy cheesecakes in a display case. The manager pretended not to be listening, which meant she definitely was. The cashier gave this tight little smile, that customer service smile that says, "I want to help you, but I also like my job, and my job has rules." I don't think we're allowed to sell expired items," she said. "We usually have to throw them away." "Or donate them," the manager added, finally stepping in, her tone brisk, professional. "We send them to the food bank. We can't sell anything past date. Liability." The mom nodded, like she already expected that answer, but hope had forced her to ask anyway. "Right," she murmured. "I understand. Sorry, I just thought maybe—" The little girl tugged on her hand. "Mommy," she whispered, loud enough for me to hear. "Will I have a cake this year?" She asked it like someone asking if the sun was going to rise, like she wasn't completely sure anymore. "Of course, sweetheart," the mum replied quickly, bending down with a shaky smile. "Mommy will figure it out. Don't you worry." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I've seen a lot of lies in my life, on contracts, balance sheets, in boardrooms filled with men wearing suits more expensive than a used car. I've told my share of them too. But that lie, spoken with love to a little girl in front of a bakery case, that one hit me in a place no balance sheet ever could. Something in my chest pulled tight. For a moment, I wasn't a man whose phone was pinging with messages about stock prices and real estate and urgent opportunities. For a moment, I was 10 years old again, standing behind my own mother in a store not so different from this one, watching her swallow pride like it was broken glass. The line started moving again. People shifted, uncomfortable, pretending to look at the display of donuts or the shelves of bread. No one said anything cruel, no one laughed, but no one stepped forward either. The mom straightened up, gave the cashier one more apologetic smile, and said, "Thank you anyway." She turned to guide her daughter away, her cart rattling with just a gallon of milk, a single pack of hot dogs, and a few cans of something cheap with bright labels. I stepped out of line. Normally I'm deliberate about my movements. Years of negotiating deals taught me to choose every gesture like a word in a contract. But this wasn't deliberate. My feet were moving before my mind caught up. "Excuse me," I said. She flinched, like she expected to be scolded for holding up the line. When she saw I was just a man in a polo shirt and jeans, she relaxed a little, but not much. "Yes?" she asked, voice guarded. For a second I felt strangely nervous, which was ridiculous. I've spoken in front of hundreds of investors at once, but this woman in front of a bakery made my tongue stumble. "I heard what you said, about the cake." Her cheeks flushed red. "Oh," she breathed, eyes dropping to the floor. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make a scene. I just thought maybe—" "You didn't make a scene," I interrupted gently. "You asked a question. That's allowed in a free country last time I checked." The little girl looked up at me. "Kids have a way of looking straight through you, like they're trying to see if you're safe. Is that your birthday shirt?" I asked her, nodding toward the glitter letters. She nodded shyly. "How old are you turning?" 7, she said, "but it's okay if I don't get a cake. Mommy says sometimes grown-up stuff is more important than cake." I had to swallow hard before I could trust myself to speak again. "Well," I said slowly, "I don't know about that. Grown-up stuff is always there. Birthdays come once a year." The mom gave a tiny, apologetic laugh, like she felt guilty for her own child's honesty. "We're fine," she said quickly. "Really, you don't need to—" That's when the smell hit me, not the fresh-baked bread smell everyone loves. A different one, buried beneath the sugar and yeast, the faint sourness of old bread, the sharp edge of fruit just about to go bad. It was a small thing, but it pulled me backward in time so fast I almost got dizzy. Suddenly, I wasn't in a neatly remodeled suburban store anymore. I was back in Brooklyn, before Brooklyn became the playground of people with artisan coffee and six-figure salaries. I was in a cramped corner bakery with fogged-up windows, the kind owned by a man with an accent thicker than the glass. I could hear my mother's voice, low and careful, like she didn't want the words to break when they came out. "Do you have yesterday's bread, maybe?" she asked the man behind the counter, in a mixture of English and Yiddish. "Anything you can't sell? I can pay a little." I remember standing beside her, small hand gripping her coat, pretending I was fascinated by the trays of cookies so I wouldn't have to look at her face when she asked. I remember pretending like I didn't understand what yesterday's bread really meant. "Of course," the baker said kindly, like he'd heard this every day and still hadn't grown hard to it. "For you, Mrs. Cohen, I always have something." He put a few loaves in a bag, added an extra roll, slipped in a pastry when he thought I wasn't looking. I noticed. Children always notice. We walked home with that bag like it was treasure. My father was working a 12-hour shift at the factory, hands cracked and blackened. My mother would slice the bread thin and spread margarine on it like it was butter, and we'd pretend it was a feast. Once a year, if we were lucky, she'd manage a cake. Most years, she'd bake something flat and simple and call it cake so we could stick a candle in it and sing. The memory pressed against my ribs as I looked at the woman in front of me now, in this polished American supermarket, decades later. She had the same tightness around her eyes my mother had, the same stubborn dignity that refuses to break, even when everything around you is cracking. I grew up on expired things, I found myself saying. Bread, fruit, whatever the stores were about to throw away. My mother used to go in right before closing and ask what they couldn't sell. The woman blinked, caught off guard. "Oh," she said softly. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I answered. I learned a lot from it. Like how hunger feels in the bones, not just the stomach. Like how it feels to watch your parents divide food in their head before it's even on the plate, calculating how to stretch it over days. Like how your sense of worth gets tangled up with the price tags you can't reach. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. "What's your daughter's name?" I asked. "Lila," she said. "Okay, Lila," I said, crouching down so I was at eye level with her. "If I told you I know a secret about this bakery, would you believe me?" Her eyes widened a little. "A secret?" she asked. "Yeah," I whispered, lowering my voice like we were co-conspirators. "Sometimes they put the really special cakes up high where only tall people can see them. Do you think we should go look?" She glanced at her mom, who looked confused and wary. "It's okay," I told her. "I'm not going to do anything weird. I know what it feels like to be 7 and wonder if you'll have a cake. Let me just look. No pressure, I promise." The mother hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she said, "but we really can't. We're just looking," I cut in gently. "Looking is still free." I stood, gave her what I hoped was a reassuring smile, and stepped back to the counter. "Hey," I said to the bakery worker, "can you show me your best birthday cake, like if you were throwing a party for, let's say, the most important 7-year-old in the world? Which one would you pick?" The cashier blinked, then a real smile crept across her face, the kind you get when someone gives you permission to enjoy your job for a second. "Oh, definitely the chocolate fudge with the rainbow sprinkles," she said, pointing to a cake in the display. "Kids love that one." "Perfect," I said. "I'll take it. And some candles. And do you have any of those little number toppers? A 7? "Yeah, we do," she said, already moving to get it. "Great. Put that on there. And throw in some of those balloons from the stand, the unicorn ones, and maybe that birthday banner." She paused, glancing over my shoulder at the mother and daughter. "Is this for—" I nodded once. She didn't ask anything else. She just started packing things. The manager pretended to be busy, but I saw the way her eyes softened when she realized what was happening. My card went through without a hiccup. I barely registered the number on the screen. There was a time when seeing that total would have made my stomach twist, when that money would have been rent or groceries for a week. That time wasn't really that long ago, if I'm honest. It just feels like a lifetime because of everything that changed. As I picked up the cake box, the candles, the balloons, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the glass case. A man in his 40s, wearing a watch worth more than my parents' first car, with a face too familiar from news articles about self-made success and inspiring immigrant stories. The kind of man people call a Jewish millionaire when they want to put both my faith and my bank account in the same sentence. Sometimes I still feel like an imposter in that reflection. The poor kid from Brooklyn living in the life of a man who made it out. I carried everything over to where the mom and Lila were waiting, standing awkwardly near a stack of discounted muffins, like they were debating whether to just grab those and pretend they were a cake. "Hey," I said lightly. So I checked the secret shelves. Turns out they were hiding something pretty good. Lila's eyes landed on the cake box, and her mouth fell open a little. Is that for us?" she whispered. I didn't answer right away. I looked at her mother instead, giving her the chance to say no, to refuse, to protect her pride if that's what she needed. Her eyes were already glossy with tears she was trying hard not to spill. "I told you," she said, voice shaking. "You don't have to." "I know," I replied softly. "I don't have to. I want to. And if you'll let me, I'd like to tell you why." I didn't hand her the cake right away. Something in me knew this moment wasn't about sugar or frosting or balloons. It was about something deeper, older, something I'd spent years trying to bury under success, under money, under the kind of comfort my younger self couldn't even imagine. But standing there, watching this woman fight back tears in a supermarket aisle, I felt my past pushing up through the cracks, demanding to be spoken aloud. Not because she owed me anything, but because she deserved to understand why a stranger would care so much. "Look," I began quietly, keeping my voice low so the people walking by wouldn't hover. "I know this probably feels uncomfortable. You're thinking I'm going to judge you or pity you or make a big show out of this. But that's not what this is." She nodded stiffly. "Pride is a fragile thing. It can survive hunger, debt, fear, but it crumbles fast under pity. I grew up like this," I said. "Not exactly the same, but close enough that when I heard you ask for an expired cake, it was like someone reached inside my chest and squeezed." Her eyes flicked upward, curious despite herself. "My parents were immigrants," I went on. "Jewish, working class. My father worked in a factory. My mother cleaned houses. We never starved, but we were always one broken appliance away from disaster. Birthdays. Birthdays weren't about parties. They were about making do." The woman swallowed hard. Lila leaned against her hip, listening. "There was 1 year," I continued, "when we had nothing. My father had lost his job, and the rent was due, and the only thing in our fridge was a half bottle of ketchup and some margarine. My birthday was 2 days away. I didn't say anything, but I knew there wasn't going to be a cake. I could still feel it, the quiet disappointment, the way it sat in my stomach like a stone. My mother must have seen it in my face. She put on her coat, took my hand, and walked me to the bakery 2 blocks down. And she asked the baker the same thing you just asked those women." The woman's breath caught. She knew where this was going. She asked if he had anything he was going to throw away, anything from yesterday, and he handed her a small, dented cake with the frosting smudged on one side. It didn't look like much, but when we put a candle in it and sang, I felt like the richest kid in Brooklyn. I exhaled slowly. I never forgot that. Not the cake, not the embarrassment, not the way my mother tried to make magic out of scraps. The mother's shoulders relaxed, but her eyes filled again, not with shame now, something else. Recognition, relief. That feeling you get when someone finally understands what you've been carrying alone. "So," I said gently, "when I saw you asking for an expired cake, it wasn't pity I felt. It was memory." She pressed her lips together, trying to steady herself. Her daughter looked between us, sensing the heaviness but too young to understand it. "I didn't want to embarrass you," I added quickly. "That's why I didn't interrupt back there. I know what it's like to be the adult who's trying to protect a child from the truth of how hard things are." A tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it fast. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm not usually like this." "You don't need to apologize," I said. "Life is expensive and tiring and unfair in ways it shouldn't be." She laughed, but it was a hollow sound. "You can say that again." I crouched down to Lila's level, holding the cake box gently so the frosting wouldn't shift. "You know," I told her, "I used to hope for cake the way kids hope for snow days, like a miracle." She giggled at that. "Children find miracles easier to believe in." "Do you like chocolate?" I asked her. She nodded vigorously. It's my favorite. Well, I said, lifting the lid a little so she could peek inside, I think this one might be the most chocolatey cake in the whole store. Her eyes lit up like someone had turned on a switch inside her. Mommy, she whispered, is that mine? Her mother hesitated, torn between pride and her child's joy. But the look on her daughter's face broke the stalemate. She nodded. Yes, baby. It's yours. Lila jumped a little, the limp balloon bouncing weakly. The mother looked at me again, her guard finally slipping. I don't know how to thank you, she said. You don't have to. Just let her enjoy her day. Then I added quietly, and let yourself breathe, even just for today. She exhaled shakily, as if she hadn't taken a full breath in months. I want to pay you something, she said, reaching for her purse, even if it's small. I don't want to just take it. I shook my head. No, absolutely not. This isn't charity, it's continuity. She blinked. Continuity? Yeah, kindness travels. Someone helped my family once when we needed it. I've spent years trying to pay that moment forward. She didn't know what to say to that. Most people don't. Gratitude is easy when you feel deserving, almost impossible when you feel broken. Can I ask you something? She said softly. Of course. Why are you so kind? People don't do things like this anymore. I smiled. Sadly, maybe. I don't always get it right, I admitted. But I remember what it felt like to be powerless, and I promised myself when I finally had the means, I'd never let someone else stand in front of a bakery counter and feel that alone. Her eyes widened a little. You have the means? Before I could answer, someone behind us gasped. Oh my God, a voice said. Aren't you? I turned. A middle-aged man with a baseball cap was staring at me, eyes wide, finger pointed. You're Cohen, right? The real estate guy? I read about you on Forbes. The mother stiffened. Recognition washed over her face like a wave hitting a shore. You're that Jewish millionaire? She asked slowly, as if the title felt too strange on her tongue. I grimaced. I've never liked that phrase. It shrinks a lifetime of work into 2 words, religion and wealth. I'm just a man who used to be hungry, I said gently. That part matters more than any headline. Her expression softened. She nodded slowly, understanding more than most people ever do. From behind me, the man with the cap kept talking. Wow, I knew it. You're famous around here for donating to the shelters. What are you doing at Walmart buying a cake? I glanced back at him. Being human, I said. Then to him with a small smile, please give us some space. He stepped back, embarrassed. The mother looked overwhelmed but calmer now, like the pieces of the situation were finally settling into place. You didn't have to do this, she whispered. I know, I said, but I wanted to. I handed her the cake, the candles, the balloons, and the little number 7 topper. She held them like they were fragile, like they might break if she breathed too hard. Then her daughter reached out and wrapped her small arms around my waist. Thank you, she said into my shirt. This is the best birthday ever. My throat tightened again. I rested a hand lightly on her back. You're welcome, sweetheart. When she let go, I stood up slowly, feeling something warm in my chest that hadn't been there when I walked into the store, something I didn't realize I'd been missing. I looked at her mother one last time. Take care of her, I said gently. I always do, she replied, but today feels different. Good, I said. She deserves a day that feels different. She nodded, clutching the cake like a lifeline. Thank you, she whispered again. You don't owe me thanks, I repeated softly. Just pass it on when you can. She smiled, really smiled, for the first time, And as they turned to leave, I felt something shift inside me, a reminder that wealth isn't measured in accounts or assets, but in the moments when we choose to show up for someone else. I thought that was the end of it, but I was wrong. There was still something coming, something neither of us expected. I watched them walk toward the exit, the mother balancing the cake box carefully against her hip while holding her daughter's hand. The balloons bounced behind them in soft, colorful arcs, a small parade of hope following two people who had walked in carrying almost nothing. I thought that moment, the one where the weight lifted off their shoulders, was the end of my part in their story. But life has a way of reminding you that nothing ends cleanly. Threads stay connected, even when you think you've let go. I grabbed the rest of the items I came in for, paid quickly, and headed toward the parking lot. The air outside was cooler than inside, a light breeze moving across the pavement. Late afternoon sun cast long shadows from the rows of shopping carts, stretching across the asphalt like dark rivers. As I approached my car, I noticed them just a few spaces down. The little girl was bouncing excitedly, talking fast, pointing at the cake box with both hands. Her mother was laughing softly, that kind of laugh people make when they're tired but relieved, when hope finally breaks through exhaustion. Then something shifted in the air. The mother stopped laughing. Her smile faded. She looked around sharply, instinctively pulling her daughter closer. At first, I didn't understand why. Then I followed her gaze. A man was walking toward them. Not quickly, not aggressively, just purposefully. His clothes were worn, his beard patchy, his eyes sunken. He looked like life had been chewing him up for years. His steps were uneven, his jaw tight, and as he approached, I saw something familiar. Shame, desperation, need. The kind that makes people unpredictable. The mother stiffened. Her daughter sensed it too, gripping her hand. The man stopped a few feet away from them. He looked at the cake box, then at the child, then at the mother. His voice was rough. "Excuse me, sorry, I don't want to scare you." He glanced at the little girl and softened his tone. "Happy birthday." Her mother pulled her gently behind her. "Can we help you?" she asked, voice tense. The man looked down at the pavement. His throat bobbed. I saw you inside, asking about the expired cake." His shoulders rose with a shaky breath. "I've been there. I know what that feels like." Her suspicion turned to confusion. "You were watching?" she asked quietly. "Not in a creepy way," he said quickly. "I was behind you in the bread aisle. I heard enough to know things are hard." He swallowed again. "Things are hard for me too." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled $5 bill. "I know it's nothing," he muttered. "But maybe put this toward whatever else she needs today. I didn't have anyone to help my kid when it was her birthday. I messed up a lot back then. I wish someone had helped." He held the bill out with shaking fingers. The mother didn't take it. She didn't know whether to feel grateful or frightened or ashamed. She just stared at the money, breathing hard. I stepped forward instinctively. "Hey," I said gently. "It's okay." The man turned, startled. Recognition flickered. "You're that guy from inside," he said. "The one that bought the cake." I nodded. "I just wanted the little girl to have a good day." He wiped his nose with the back of his hand, embarrassed. "Yeah, I figured." Someone who does that, someone who helps like that, they must have needed help once too. His words hit me harder than I expected. He wasn't wrong. "We all need help at some point," I said. His eyes glistened. "Not people like you." I stepped closer. "Especially people like me," I corrected softly. He blinked like he didn't understand. "I didn't always have money," I continued. "I didn't come from much. And there were days I was hungrier than anyone knew. I paused. Sometimes the world thinks people with money have always had it, but that's not how it works. Some of us walked through hell to get where we are. He looked away, jaw tightening, overwhelmed. I lost my job last month, he whispered. I sleep in my car now. I go days without talking to anyone. When I saw her, he nodded toward the mother, asking for an expired cake. I remembered my daughter's 7th birthday. She wanted a unicorn cake. I couldn't get it. I told her I would next year. He paused, voice breaking. There wasn't a next year. Her mom took her and left. Haven't seen her in 3 birthdays. Silence settled over us. The mother slowly stepped forward, her daughter still behind her but peeking curiously. She held out her hand, not for the $5, but simply as a gesture of humanity. I'm sorry, she whispered. Truly. He nodded without speaking, wiped his face again and tucked the bill back into his pocket. He turned as if to walk away. Wait, I said. He stopped. You want something to eat? He flinched at the question, not offended. More like the word eat triggered something physical in him. You don't have to do that, he muttered. I know, I said, but I want to. He hesitated, then gave the smallest nod. There was a deli window near the exit where they sold hot meals in styrofoam containers. Rotisserie chicken, mashed potatoes, vegetables, comfort food. I bought him 2 meals and a bottle of water. He thanked me in a voice so quiet it almost didn't exist. When I handed him the food, our eyes met for half a second. And I realized something. The mother wasn't the only one I'd been meant to help that day. Sometimes kindness doesn't wait for your permission. It drags you into other people's stories, whether you planned on being there or not. The man walked away slowly, holding the food like it was something sacred. The mother exhaled shakily behind me. I can't believe that just happened, she murmured. Hard times make people collide, I said. Sometimes in the worst ways, sometimes in the best. She looked at me, then at her daughter, who was still admiring the cake like she couldn't believe it was real. Thank you, she said again, not just for the cake now, but for stepping in. You didn't have to stay. I wasn't going to walk off while you were scared, I replied simply. No mother should have to feel alone like that. Her eyes softened. You must have an incredible family, to be so kind. I paused. It's funny how people assume success means security or that wealth means emotional stability, but they don't see the fractures under the foundation. My family wasn't perfect, I said, but my mother believed that no matter how poor we were, we could still be generous. I glanced at her daughter. She used to say, we don't give because we have. We give because we understand. The woman blinked. That's beautiful. I smiled slightly. It took me a long time to understand what she meant. We stood there for a moment, watching the golden light stretch across the parking lot. Cars moved in and out. People rushed in and out of the store. Life went on, busy and fast, while a small miracle settled quietly between us. You should get home, I said, nodding to the cake. There's a birthday girl waiting for her party. Lila beamed. We're gonna have candles and balloons and everything. I grinned. That sounds perfect. The mother adjusted the cake against her hip. I wish there was something I could do to repay you. You already did, I said. She frowned. What did I do? You reminded me who I used to be, I answered, and who I still want to be. Her eyes shimmered again, but she didn't cry this time. Instead, she said, maybe the world isn't as cold as it feels. Not if we refuse to let it be. She nodded slowly, taking in the words. They began walking toward their car. I stayed back, not wanting to intrude on the moment. Lila waved at me with her limp balloon. "Bye, mister." "Happy birthday, Lila," I called back. They drove away, disappearing down the exit lane into the soft orange glow of the evening. I stood there a moment longer, letting the quiet settle in my chest. That should have been the end of the story. But it wasn't, because later that night, hours after the cake was cut and candles blown out, someone knocked on my door, and everything changed. I wasn't expecting anyone that night. I'd gone home, answered a few emails, heated up leftovers, and tried to settle into the quiet. But quiet feels different after a day like that. It sits on your shoulders, heavy with thoughts you didn't know you were carrying. I was in my living room, half watching a news segment, when there was a knock at the door. Not loud, not urgent, just hesitant. 3 soft taps. My first thought was that it had to be a delivery. But when I opened the door, the hallway light spilled onto 2 silhouettes I instantly recognized, the mother and Lila. The cake box was gone, replaced by a small gift bag decorated with unicorns, clearly reused and slightly wrinkled, the kind kids keep for years because the colors are pretty. Lila was still wearing her birthday girl shirt, now smudged with chocolate and frosting around the collar. My heartbeat stuttered. "Hi," the mother said softly. Her voice wasn't shaky this time. It was steady, almost serene. "I'm so sorry to show up unannounced. We didn't know if we should come, but she insisted." She nudged Lila forward gently. Lila held out the little gift bag with both hands. "This is for you," she said. "I wanted to say thank you." I blinked, surprised. "For me?" She nodded earnestly. "It's something I made." The mother smiled, embarrassed. "She worked on it the moment we got home. She wouldn't let the day end without giving it to you." And I knelt down and took the bag carefully, like it might hold something fragile. Inside was a drawing, crayon on construction paper, a big chocolate cake, rainbow sprinkles, candles lit, a little girl with a balloon, a man holding a cake box. In shaky child handwriting at the bottom she'd written, "Thank you for my birthday." My throat tightened. I'd received awards before, business awards, philanthropy plaques, recognition from foundations and boards and organizations with long names and marble lobbies. None of them had ever made my chest feel like it was breaking open. "I love it," I said gently. "I really do." Lila grinned, proud. Kids always know when they've made something meaningful. The mother shifted, holding something behind her back. "There's one more thing," she said. She pulled out a small container wrapped in foil. I recognized it instantly. Leftover birthday cake. "We wanted you to have a piece," the mother said, "since you made this day possible." She handed it to me with both hands like an offering, and I understood the weight of the gesture. For a family with so little, giving away even a small piece of cake wasn't just gratitude, it was sacrifice, it was dignity shared, not borrowed. "Thank you," I whispered. She hesitated a moment, then added, "I also wanted to tell you something. I didn't know how to say it earlier, but when you stepped forward today, when you spoke to me, when you told me about your mother, I felt something shift." "Shift?" I repeated. "Yes," she said. "I've been drowning. Bills, rent, hours being cut at work. I've been carrying so much alone, and for months I've felt like the world didn't see us anymore, like we were invisible." She swallowed, eyes shining, not with sadness this time, but with clarity. "But today, someone saw us, not as a burden, not as charity, as human beings." Her words went straight through me. "And it made me realize something," she continued. "I'm not powerless, and I'm not done. I just needed one moment of kindness to remember that." She took a breath, steady, full. "I already applied for a second job tonight," she said. "A night shift. It's not glamorous, but it's something, and I'm going to make it work. For her." Lila wrapped her arms around her mother's waist. The woman kissed the top of her head and whispered, "We're gonna be okay, baby." I felt a warmth rise in my chest, slow and deep, the kind that reminds you why you're alive. "That's the strongest thing I've heard all day," I said softly. She smiled, a real one that reached all the way to her eyes. Before leaving, she placed a hand lightly on my arm. "I know you said I don't owe you thanks," she murmured, "but I want to say this anyway." She looked directly into my eyes. "You didn't just save a birthday today," she said. "You saved a piece of me." I didn't know what to say to that. Some truths don't need replies. They just settle in your bones and stay there. They turned to leave. Lila waved again, her balloon bobbing. "Bye, mister." "Good night, birthday girl." I watched them walk down the hallway, the echo of their footsteps fading as they turned the corner. The building was quiet again, but something inside me wasn't. I closed the door, sat down at my dining table, and placed the drawing in front of me. The crayon colors were bright, loud, alive. I traced the lines gently with my fingertips. Then I unfolded the foil-covered plate and looked at the slice of cake, a simple piece of chocolate cake. And in that moment it hit me, harder than anything else that day. This was the first time in my life someone had ever given me a piece of birthday cake. Growing up, there was never enough to share. Every slice had to count. Every bite had a purpose. Giving away cake was a luxury we couldn't afford. But tonight, someone who barely had enough for her own child chose to give some away. I closed my eyes and breathed in the sweetness, the softness, the quiet meaning of it. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I didn't expect. Not pride, not satisfaction, not accomplishment. Peace. A deep, steady, human peace. I took a bite of the cake. It tasted like childhood. It tasted like gratitude. It tasted like hope. And as I sat there in the warm glow of my kitchen light, alone but not lonely, I realized something I think we all forget too easily. Wealth isn't about what we keep. It's about what we return to the world. Before going to bed, I placed Lila's drawing on my fridge with a magnet, right beside a picture of my mother from decades ago, holding a smudged, dented cake she'd worked magic with. I looked at them side by side, 2 moments from 2 lifetimes that somehow became one, and I whispered quietly into the empty room, "Thank you, Mom. I finally understand." If this story touched you, tell me in the comments. And if you believe kindness still matters, don't forget to like this video. What's one moment of compassion you'll never forget?